When he was done, he blew his pneuma. He blew his breath into the dust and formed man. Our life begins with the first breath that we take. Our life ends with the last breath that we take. He wakes you up in the morning by giving you a fresh breath of life so you can stand up and live. It is his breath to give, and it is his breath to take away. The danger of COVID-19 is that it robs you of the breath that he has given you. So when he blows on you with the pneuma, which is the breath of life, and he gives you another opportunity to participate in this crazy game that you all call life, you should give thanks that you're still in the game. Because the robbery of something as simple as the pneuma is something we all take for granted. If you have breath in your body, if you can blow the pneuma, then the very first breath you take in the morning, when you awake and open your eyes, you should use that first breath to give praise to the Most High before you do anything else, because that breath is not guaranteed to you. So I want to start this morning and wish you a grand rising, because you received the pneuma again to participate in this crazy game we call life. We want to stop, no matter where we're at, no matter what we're doing, no matter what you think is important. Because if he takes the pneuma away from you, no matter what you're doing, it's no longer that important. The Most High can get your attention when he wants to. All he has to do is touch your health. Nothing else matters. I bid you all a grand rising this morning, and together we give praise to the Most High. I welcome you to my morning mental. Put some things on your mind mentally. I welcome all of my students, all of my friends, all of my associates, but I also have to welcome all of my enemies, all of my foes, all of my haters, all of those who would replace me because they think they know better than the Creator. Sometimes he has to send a representative to talk to his people. And because we won't listen to anybody, but sometimes somebody that looks like us, he keeps on sending messages to you like a bill that comes in the mail. And y'all know that a lot of us will take the bill and throw it right in the trash. Some of us won't even open the bill. We know what it is. We've seen it before. So we just toss it in the trash. But then they turn off your service, or they interrupt your good time, or they make you uncomfortable, or they take something from you that you thought was yours, but you were just paying on it. You see, this life is not yours. You're paying on it. This world is not yours. You are renting it. And everything you own, from the clothes on your back, to the car you drive, to the house you live in, to the land it sits on, under the skies that it sits under, to the sun that shines down, to the clouds that make it rain, to the dog that comes when you call, or the cat that you feed, to the job that you think you have, to the money that's put in your hands, to the children that live in your house. None of it's yours. Everything is on loan to you. You are managing somebody else's property. You are the keeper of someone else's belongings. And the life that you have is on loan to you. That is why it can be taken from you in a split second. But you know, we have a tendency to get comfortable. Yes, we do. As I'm watching the sunrise this morning, I'm thinking about three things that we have to highlight this morning. So I bid all of you a grand rising. We celebrate another day in the earth realm. Last night, an interesting thing happened. Last night, I went to the supermarket. I went to the supermarket. And I went to the supermarket because I needed some organic fruit. Yes, I did. I wanted some organic strawberries. I wanted some organic blueberries. I wanted some organic blackberries. I needed some organic bananas. I wanted to pick up some organic romaine lettuce, real lettuce. I wanted also to pick up some organic tomatoes. I wanted some organic grapes. What did all these have in common? Organics have a seed. There is no such thing that the Creator put on this world that did not start from a seed. And because He's made us in His image, we're capable of doing some things in His image. There is a difference. You see, we cannot recreate anything ourselves with a seed, but we can make some examples of things that look like they should have a seed, and then everybody thinks it's the real thing. You came from a seed. I came from a seed. Can you imagine a person that did not? Can you imagine what would happen if a person was created in the image of us, but they didn't come from a seed? They came from a test tube. They came from a petri dish. They are man's imitation of the work of the Creator. Why would that be dangerous? It would be dangerous because I'm on my morning mental. It would be dangerous because you can imitate something, but you cannot create the real thing. And the one thing that differentiates us from any type of creation is we have something inside of us that we cannot create. And that is a soul. Just because you recreate the physical doesn't mean that you have recreated the spiritual. All you've done is create a host vessel for any spirit or demon to live inside of. You're building empty houses. and there's no one living in there. Whereas when we are created as an inhabited home. So there's already somebody in here. So I went out to get me some organic fruit, to get me some organics. I wanted to be in the best of health so that I could continue to survive in these tumultuous times that we live in. And you should be doing the same if you're still polluting your bodies with poison. As things get worse on this planet, you will find out that your systems will begin to fail because you have not given it the proper fuel that it needs, not when you need to be in cruise control, but when you need to hit the gas, when you need to roll out, when you need to be able to shoot, communicate, and move on out, when you need to be able to stay alert, to stay alive, when you need to be practicing situational awareness, when you need your eyes at the best of their functioning capacity, your hearing on 10, your sense of smell turned up, you can taste when something ain't right. Well, you can't do those things if you don't have the right fuel in the tank. So I'm on my way to the supermarket to pick up some things so I can refuel correctly. And it was at night because I have to move under the cover of darkness now because the enemy is in full effect and they recognize me wherever I go now. The enemy and the angels know me because when I set foot in the street now, there's always somebody who looks like me. That when they see me, they stand a little taller. They hold their head a little higher. They take in a deep breath and they look at the people that was looking at them sideways and they say, now what? It's a good feeling to know that my people have found their backbone. But there's another group of people that see me and immediately they cannot contain their anger. They cannot contain their hatred. They cannot contain their guilt. They cannot contain their sense of inferiority. They cannot contain the fact that they would love to see my blood running down the curb into the gutter. But in order to do that, requires courage. It requires the willingness to risk the sacrifice of yourself because it goes both ways. Stay strapped is my motto. So I go to the supermarket. Y'all stay with me. I get in the supermarket and I'm getting all these organic things that I need. And while I'm in there, there is a woman who's shopping with her friends. I assume they were friends. They didn't look alike. Maybe they were all sisters of different fathers of the same mother. I don't know. They looked at me and they continued to shop. There was a little child, who was riding in a basket. You know, we're riding in a basket. And the child became animated and started bouncing up and down and waving around and screaming. And all of the three women looked at the child because remember, it is a child. And the child is waving its arms and people begin to look and like, what's wrong with the child? And they're trying to calm the child down. And the child says, Daddy. Papa, Daddy. And I'm looking like, who is the child talking about? Because I don't know these people. And the child is saying, Daddy, and he's pointing at me. So all of, sisters, you know how y'all do, all of the sisters gave me the look of, is it him? And they didn't recognize me. And the child says, Paw. And so finally, one of the women says, that's not your daddy. And the child stopped and looked at her like this. I'm sorry, but there was only one way that I could interpret that look. It was, pardon my language, ladies, please don't be offended, but sometimes the word is appropriate. And this was the look that the child gave to the mother. Bitch, please. As if, not that I was the father, but that you don't know what I'm talking about. And he got very animated and he picked up her phone and pointed to the phone and said, "Paw Paw." And that's when one of the young ladies said, "OMG, that's Grandmaster Jay." And the whole scene shifted in the supermarket from the mouth of a child who was riding in a grocery basket. Got a glimpse of what they see, think, or feel is the presence of a fatherly figure that even they know, because the truth is the truth is the truth is the truth. I use that as an example first to let you all know that you can become so preoccupied with what you're doing here on this planet that you forget for 2 seconds that we are spirit beings first and we are flesh beings second. The same way I'm inside of this flesh casing communicating with you, but I am a spirit being just like you. Can I talk to y'all this morning? The child who couldn't walk on its own, the child who couldn't shop on its own, the child that could not go out and get what it needed to survive, the child that even though it was being given a ride in its spirit, in its ancestral spirit, is still able to receive the truth and knows when it feels it near them. I managed to get out of the supermarket after I had to stand there and sign autographs and take pictures right in front of the cereal. And then as I made my way down to the self-checkout with this crowd of people behind me, I was very, very aware of the people who were giving me dirty looks, of the people who were misinformed, of the people who were comfortable in their stupidity. I saw the looks of slave-minded people who said, "This is a threat. This is not good. We have to do something about black people like that." So I left saying to myself and to the Creator, that was interesting. I did manage to get all the things I needed, but I said that's just stuff that happens. And I thought it was touching that the child recognized me and called me his father. Interesting. I drove home and I was at the house. Now it's dark. And I was taking groceries into the house. And as I was taking groceries into the house, I got this feeling that someone was watching me. I'm not making this up, y'all. I'm sharing it with you on the Morning Mental. I got this feeling that someone was looking at me. And I mean, y'all know the feeling. This is actually part of the senses that you have that you don't use anymore. We have a heightened sense of awareness around us. Your grandmama used to call it your sixth sense. It is your tingling, your intuition that something ain't right here. It is your spiritual eye trying to tell you that your physical eye is missing something. Something was watching me. I'm in the dark. And y'all know my friends, the ghetto ducks. Y'all know the ghetto ducks. If you've been on Facts Over Feelings or the Morning Mental, you've seen the ghetto ducks. The ghetto ducks, they come through when we're outdoors filming, and they'll slide by in the water and make their presence known. Y'all have seen the ghetto ducks have pulled up when we have been delivering a real word. They have pulled up and they've sat there like, we need to hear this too. And we make jokes about the ghetto ducks because the ghetto ducks will show up with their children. Y'all remember the time I was trying to do the special and the 3 mama ducks showed up with all of their kids and brought them, and I thought they came to get something to eat. No, they made them sit there. And when I was trying to teach the class, the little kids wouldn't shut up. And then I spoke a word, silence. Y'all remember that? And they silenced themselves. And we all laughed about it. And then there was the time that the ghetto ducks came cruising their ass in the background while we was trying to teach, and they were sitting in the water just making all these crazy noises. And we all turned around and said, do you mind, while the creator is sending a word through one of his servants to his children? Would y'all mind? And what did y'all remember what happened? The ghetto ducks shut up, lined up, and took off. If you don't know anything about these types of creatures, they do something that I find very fascinating. They operate on a clock that I've never seen. They operate on a schedule, and they move in ways that I don't know. I'm not an expert on ducks, but what I do know is that they have the ability, no matter how stupid and random they may appear to us, just like no matter how stupid and random we might appear to others, the ghetto ducks, at an appointed time, line themselves up behind their leader, and they take off in formation, and they go somewhere, and you don't see them again until the next day. The ghetto ducks are always about maybe 15 or 20 deep. Yes, the ghetto ducks is a squad. And I call them the ghetto ducks because they act like they are in the ghetto sometimes. Some of the stuff they do reminds me of my folks when we trying to make do with what we got, but we still trying to stick together, but we still doing ghetto stuff. Like, for instance, one mama brought her ducks over to get fed, and another mama tried to bring her kids over to get fed, and the other mama won't having it. But then her girlfriend showed up with her kids, and it was cool. That's ghetto. So I had to enact a feed all the ducks program, so that no matter who you was, and just like in the ghetto, when the male ducks tried to show up just to get a piece of the action, all the sister ducks ran them off and said, how dare you come over here and try to eat with your children ducks when you don't pay duck support. Ghetto. The ghetto ducks, 15 at the most. They keep hours. The ghetto ducks would show up in the daytime. They would pull up around 6 or 7. They'd hang out on the lake, and they cruise around and do duck things all day. Around 5 o'clock, they assemble themselves and they go wherever they go. I've always wondered where they go. I'm not like white people. I'm not going to go and grab a ghetto duck and put a tracking device on them. I'm not that nosy about other life forms, the same way white people are too nosy about this particular life form. So last night, I was bringing the groceries in, and I felt like someone was watching me. I turned around and I looked. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I'm not making this up. The entire lake was full of ducks. Not 15, not 30, not 50, not 150. There were more ducks sitting on the lake than I had ever seen since I've been seeing the lake. I couldn't make them out at first. I just couldn't figure out what was going on. And so I turned on the light, and I realized there was a gathering of ducks like I had never seen before. And they were all facing me. So I said, okay, what is this? And then in a moment, I got this feeling that it was cool. I got this sensation that don't act like you don't know what this is. So just to be funny, yes, I was trying to be funny, I raised my arms as if to say, come to me. And they all started to move toward me. Now, I may be a smart person, and I may be very connected with the Most High. And yes, I'm all of those things. But remember, I am encased in a black body. And black people, we don't hang around to find out what's going to happen on the other end of a whole lot of things. So when they started to move toward me, quietly, they made no noises. I took pictures. I'll share the pictures of what I could capture. I was not ready to have a moment with all them damn ducks. So, bruh, man, went into the house and closed the door and sat there for a minute. And I said, Yah, why are the ducks here? And where did all these damn ducks come from? In the middle of the night, after they should have been gone. There were never ducks on the lake at this time of night, ever. So I said, well, maybe I'm tripping. I'm tripping. Y'all stay with me now. I'm going somewhere with this. So I opened the door and I went back out there again. Sure enough, they were still there. And they were all facing my way. They were just sitting there. They weren't quacking. There wasn't no splashing. They were sitting there. So I called a friend of mine because I wanted somebody to know that I'm not crazy. I said, yo, you got to see this. And I called this person and I showed them on FaceTime. I said, look at this. And even they were like, wow, where are you? Are you at a duck sanctuary? I'm like, no, I'm at the crib spot, the bat cave. And the ducks are out here deep. Why are the ducks out here deep? What is the message? And why are they watching me? She said, well, maybe they're getting ready to migrate. That made sense. I said, really? Watch this. And I did it again. I put my arms out, just like you see the statue of Yeshua, just like you see on the hill in the top of Brazil, just like you saw in Ohio when they used to have this big statue called Big Butt of Jesus that stood in front of this white church that got struck by lightning and burned down. Y'all remember when that happened? So I did it again, and they all began to move toward me, which let me further know that this was a representation of something that was a collective conscious, that this was an expression of the Most High. What are you trying to tell me? It was an expression of unity. It was an expression of different populations combining together to form one entity. It was an expression and an example that was given by the Most High, as if to say, things are much bigger than you imagine. Things are not what they seem. But if you don't get the hint, if you don't pick up on the clue, if you don't put it together, then maybe I'm talking to and through the wrong person. Thank you, Yah. I got it. I'm going to tell y'all right now, I didn't try to figure it out. And I wasn't about to stand around and wait for all them damn ducks to pull up on me. So I went back in the cribbo, secured the place, and I sat there and read the Torah, of course. I read the books of morals and precepts again. And then I began to study because I figured there was something that I was supposed to get out of that. When the ducks leave, there's always the same sequence. They make a lot of noise. They all start talking, and then they all take off. I awoke this morning to look out on the lake. They're gone. And I didn't hear them. I normally hear 15 ducks make a whole lot of damn noise and be like, "They go to ghetto ducks, they taking off," or I can hear them when they come. I neither heard them come and I never heard them go. Why should that be of significance to you? Because the times you're living in right now, you're going to see things, hear things, smell things, and feel things that you will find amazing. But if you do not connect that to the fact that these are nothing more but samples and examples of the last days that you're living in. You see, when you hear about things like great volumes of animals that drop out of the sky and they all die at the same time and no one has an explanation, you don't just blow that off and go about your business. When you hear about strange lights in the skies and strange colors at sunset and sunrise, and you say, "Oh, that's interesting," and you go about your business, that's not the idea. When you see things starting to happen amongst the people that have never happened or haven't happened in a long time because the times are shifting, that the earth is shifting, the energy is shifting, when the sun doesn't stay in the same place from day to day, when the moon goes back and forth across the skies both ways, when you see in two moons, two suns, when you can't see the stars the way they're supposed to be because they look like they done flipped them around, when people are starting to tell you that they haven't these crazy ass dreams and crazy visions and they're not into that type of stuff, when people begin to prophesy and they don't know why they're prophesying, when children who can't walk and can't talk but know when they come into the presence of a spirit that is sent by the Mo, and all of these things come to pass, it is then time for all of us to realize, Dorothy, we are not in Kansas anymore. It is written, and I'm on my morning mental, it is written that you will see violence increase in the world. It is written that there will be war and rumors of war. It is written that man will turn against man, women will turn against women, adults against children, that we will abuse the animals, that we will begin to destroy this world. That when that happens, that's when you really need to pay attention, because those are the birth pains of what is to come. I woke this morning thinking about the ducks out there, but realizing that the ducks are not what's happening. What's really going on is that time's up. Time's up. I want to talk to y'all this morning about a few things that have concerned me that are the signs that you're missing. The first thing that I want to talk about is, in a few days, there's going to be a celestial event that's coming our way. I've been talking to you about it. I'm going to keep talking to you about it until you get it. There is a meteor coming this way. Its name is 2018 VP1. That's 2018 Victor Papa 1 for all of my military folks. And it is projected to come by the Earth on November the 2nd. And the story keeps changing, but I just want you to be aware that it's coming. Don't know what it's going to do, but it is a sign. That's the first thing. You can research it for yourself. Then again, I also would like for you to be aware that, and I know y'all haven't been keeping up with this, and this is really a sidebar. I came to your attention when I got fed up with the increasing amount of blatant racism and violence that was being enacted by white people against black people based on the color of our skin. Ahmaud Arbery, a young black man who was living his life in America, was hunted down and fought for his life and was killed by Neanderthal Edomites who detested his existence simply because he was what he was. Even though they tried to come up with some bullshit story, they killed him because they couldn't stand the sight of watching a descendant of the 12 tribes out enjoying the life that was given to him, so they took it. Y'all remember what happened. The brothers showed up, not with signs, not with rainbows, not with chants. We showed up with guns. And we didn't show up with guns at a courthouse. We didn't show up with guns in a park. We didn't show up with guns in the middle of a street or a highway. No, we showed up with guns at the house of the McMichaels and at the McBryans. That's where we showed up. And when they called the police came and saw what was happening, and they would not approach us. They stayed a block away. When all of that happened, we set an example that we expected you to follow, but you didn't get it. You didn't get it. You continue to show up with signs and rainbows against people who are already prepared to end your existence. And now we find ourselves 7 months later, and things are escalating, not just here in the United States, but everywhere. Everywhere. And we, who were given the first shot to set the example, we, that the entire world watches and imitates and emulates, we found the backbone to stand up worldwide. But we did not go all the way with arming ourselves. Once you arm yourself and become an equal adversary to your enemy, you will see that they respect, not love you, but respect the fact that they know they can take your life. But now you're showing them you can take theirs too. So let's stop and talk about it. The NFAC was born. The NFAC became a walking nightmare. There are people who still don't get it. There are people who thought that everything should stop now. Those people are stupid and short-sighted. No inkling of history. People have been getting killed since day one, and the killing will never stop. The problem is the killing has only been on one side. And all of you all who are looking for an easy way out are the same people who are not willing to kill anyone for anything. I don't want to call you a coward, but I can't find any other word for you. The killing will stop when you stop it. Now, there is a situation that we all should be aware of, because the very things that you're upset about, the very things that you're calling for, other people are experiencing, and they're calling for the same things in their neck of the woods. So travel with me for a minute, my people, while I try to hip you to something that you have been under a brainwash for years. When I say Africa, I'm going to show you how you're brainwashed. Watch this. When I say Africa, most of you all think of a country. I'm from Africa. Africa is not a country. Africa is one of the largest continents of land on this planet. Africa, just like North America, it is a continent. But a lot of y'all still don't know what I mean by that. When I say Africa, you've been brainwashed to think of Africa as this uncivilized place in the jungle that needs to be civilized and brought into the modern world. That's not true. When I say Africa, a lot of people, they don't know you've been brainwashed of the 55 countries inside of Africa. Those 55 countries, some of them have their own sub-kingdoms, and some of them have multiple kingdoms. And every one of those kingdoms has its own culture, has its own ways, has its own different type of food, have their own legends, everything. When I say Africa, you can only see it through the lens of the slave master, because he's given you this image. When I say Africa, you're brainwashed, because if I was to ask you, name 5 metropolises in a country in Africa, most of you all couldn't do it. If I showed you a picture of some of the biggest cities on the continent, a lot of you all would sit there and say to me, where's that at? Is that in America? You see, when I say Africa, a lot of you all don't even understand that Africa has places that are more developed, more beautiful, more vacation worthy, more worthy of spending your hard-earned money, more capable of supporting your business opportunities, more able to have you supply the whole world with whatever it is that they need, and you still be prosperous. Most of you are so brainwashed about Africa that if someone tries to teach you about why we say we are all descendants of Africa, a lot of you cannot see past the racial filter to even know that that is the true origin and the truth of who you are and where your power derives from. They have separated you from the very source of your power. And even today, when things begin to rise to the top of the spotlight about Africa, a lot of y'all look at it with your faces all scrunched up because you don't have a point of reference. You see, in America, you're only taught from 1619 to 1969. The only thing that they mention about Africa in the American education is that that's where you came from as a slave, when they failed to mention that slave is not a thing. Slave is the result of an action. The action of enslaving someone is a violent, ongoing act. It is not a particular person. Anyone can be enslaved, but there's no such thing as a slave. You've been disconnected. You've had your minds erased. And now when it's time for you to understand that what's happening in Africa, no matter which country it is, eventually will affect You are not safe. You are not. You are not exclusive. You have not arrived. You are not safe. So when you hear things coming out of Africa, always ask yourself, who's behind it and what is the source of the information? There are prosperous economies in Africa. Some of those countries supply entire industries that you live, eat, and sleep by. I'm pretty sure some of y'all right now are looking to go out and buy you an iPhone 12 or whatever it is that comes out. But you don't realize that they couldn't make those iPhones if they didn't have a certain mineral that comes from where? Africa. I know a lot of y'all are proud of the bling bling that you have. You got diamond rings and diamond watches and diamond necklaces, and y'all out here talking about, I got all this ice, and you're proud of that because you said, I got this. I worked hard for this, but you don't realize that you wouldn't be bling blinging if it wasn't for the diamond mines in Africa. A lot of you all don't understand that a lot of the raw materials that you use to enjoy every day, and that there are places in this world like the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, which were nothing but empty deserts, now have these gleaming metropolises that were built by and invested in by who? Africa. A lot of you all also don't seem to realize that when you get sick and you go to the doctor and they give you these wonderful medicines that help you become healthy again, that the experimentation and the clinical trials were tested on the resilient biological systems of the most superior biological beings on the planet, Africa. So with all that going on in Africa, shouldn't you be wondering why now that there's all this unrest coming out of Africa? Why now? And why do you think you're so detached from it? Why do you act, well, we safe over here? Are you really safe over here? You ain't safe over here. You getting killed too. You already on a list. You're already a target. You've already been categorized. They already know everything you say and do because you sit on your phones all day long and give each other personal information. You want to be recognized, so you quick to show everybody what you do. And then if somebody is doing better than you, you got no problem criticizing and helping to tear them down. The white people don't have to tear you down because you'll do it to yourself. Every time they think that black folks got themselves together and could be a viable threat, all they got to do is wait and wait for black people to start fighting amongst themselves and say, oh, that ain't no threat. False alarm, false alarm, false alarm. Even when black people organized themselves and picked up guns and became a viable threat in this country, it was ignorant black folks that turned around and attacked those same people so the white people could relax. The white people could start talking smack. The white people could start saying y'all a joke. The white people could say y'all are unorganized. The white people start talking all kind of smack because they recognize they still ain't figured it out yet. They don't know how to unify. Now, all of a sudden, word is coming out that things are not happy in the motherland. And while y'all sitting around here talking about, we got to pray for them, there you go with that slave shit again. No, you don't pray. Prayer has not stopped a bullet. Prayer has not ended slavery. Prayer is a petition from your spirit to the desk of the Holy Spirit that goes on the desk of the Most High. That is a spiritual conversation. But you have been empowered on this planet to do those things that you keep asking. Y'all really kill me with this. Well, if we pray about it, everything will be okay. Get your punk ass up. Get off your knees. Stop being a servant in the earth realm, asking for help from the spiritual realm when you won't do anything yourself. You insult the Creator. You are a foul odor to his nose. And then you wonder why you keep letting stuff happen. I would too, until you get it. Lagos is a city in Nigeria. Why is Nigeria important? Nigeria is the most prosperous economy in all of Africa. Unfortunately, it is also one of the most corrupt, because the government that is in control of Nigeria are not real Africans. They're puppets. They are controlled by the white man. Yes, I said it. And anytime anyone comes along with some good sense that threatens the status quo, they run back to their slave masters and say, what should we do to control them? And just like here in the United States, those same people who won't get out there and do the fighting themselves, they train, just like a dog, they train those people to attack their own. Now, let me help y'all out. 30 years ago in Nigeria, things was pretty bad. You see, the reason that the entire continent of Africa is in such bad shape is not because they're uncivilized. It is the home of the most advanced civilization that ever existed on Earth. And if you want to learn more about that, join me tonight on Facts Over Feelings for part 5 of the Nephilim and the Pyramid of the Apocalypse. I think we breaking some people free on there if you haven't tuned in. But the reason that Africa is in such bad shape is because white people went down there and invaded, redirected, redrew the boundaries, committed genocide, and then turned around and destroyed the economies of all of those countries and made them slaves economically to the white empire, that to this day they can never prosper because they're too busy paying a fake debt that they shouldn't be paying. That is why it is impoverished, in case you don't know. So all the prosperity that you're enjoying, talking about you the greatest country on earth, and no, you're the greatest pimp on earth. You are the greatest liar on earth. You are the greatest user on earth. And all of y'all are riding on the good ship Lollipop, where they're making lollipops on the backbones of other people. You see, you don't understand that if Africa was to shut off all of its resources, if the entire continent of Africa could run the Chinese and the white man off of their land, if Africa could expel all of the Arabs out of their land, if Africa could expel all of the Mongoloids out of their land and let it become just what it was, the word Kemet means land of the blacks. If it became just that again, and they say we're not going to do business with nobody until we're ready, you would find out just how little you have here, and you would also understand why they invaded to this day and control every government on the continent of Africa. World War? Yes, because in order to liberate the continent of Africa, you would have to go to war with France, the UK, the United States, China, and everyone else that has a hand in the exploitation and the genocide and continued elimination of the black race. 30 years ago, this impoverished condition gave rise to a special police force that was put in place to fight corruption, to fight robbery, and to fight crime. It was called SARS. It was a special unit to prevent robbery. And when they were first created, it was a good thing. SARS was out doing honorable things. But as we all know, corruption has a way of creeping into everything. And all of a sudden, SARS was suspected of doing heinous things. SARS was fighting the police. SARS was even fighting the army. And then SARS went so far as to murder the colonel of the police force. Oh, SARS started being accused of things that sound a whole lot like the police in America. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Your brother had them drugs planted on him. Somebody got brutalized. Somebody had a no-knock warrant. Somebody kicked dough down and killed somebody, and nobody went to jail. As a matter of fact, SARS started becoming the poster child for extreme police brutality, not like what you see here in the United States. We're talking about on a whole nother level. And there was an outcry from the people to abolish SARS. So they did. And then they brought it back quietly. And once again, it returned to its full glory of being this abusive, police brutality filled, law breaking agency that was completely untouchable by anyone. So they said, we got to get rid of this thing. So they got rid of it again. What is the point I'm making? You see, they keep getting rid of it, but they don't get rid of the culture. So all of y'all in the United States that's running around talking about police reform, it is not the police that needs to be reformed. It is the entire culture of policing that needs to be replaced. You see, if you don't replace the culture, there's no need trying to replace the people who live in it. Until you replace the culture that fosters racism, until you replace the culture that allows systemic racism to exist, until you replace the culture of white supremacy, then it does you no good to have the people who live in it continue to make false gestures toward you, talking about, we're going to make sure that we're all inclusive and Black Lives Matter and we're all in this together. We're with you. No, you're with us in a culture that still exists. You have to abolish the culture if you want to abolish the practice. I think about this, and I think about what's happening in Lagos. By now, you've seen the videos. You've seen the killings. By now, you've seen the protests. By now, you know what it's all about. A lot of you all, because you don't know anything about the motherland, you don't understand what you're seeing, because this looks like a big city. This looks like it could be downtown LA. This looks like, but I thought it was just a jungle. No. I remember when I went to Ghana, I was in the city of Accra, and I was just amazed at the architecture. And I'm like, why doesn't anybody ever come here? Why don't I ever see commercials for come to Africa if you want to take a vacation? Why I always see these commercials where they want you to go somewhere like, to the Bahamas, or they want you to come to the, UAE, or they want you to come. Why don't they ever advertise these beautiful places, these beaches and so forth in Africa? Because they consider Africa to be the toilet of the world. That is what they think of you, Black people. So you can imagine, I was not surprised when I started hearing about what was going on there. To give you an update, the government has again dissolved SARS. Yes, they have. But it's a little too late, because in the process of doing that, the army killed a few people. I'm going to come back and talk about that in part 2 of the Morning Mental. Because whose culture is it? Whose culture is it? I'll see y'all in a few minutes. Whose culture is it?